My name is Eva Rutten. I'm 53 years old. I'm the youngest in the family of 3, brother and sister, and I just celebrated my mom's 80th birthday last week together with my father and brother and sister. I'm a mother of Joost, and I'm married to the love of my life, Peter. I feel responsible for the growth in economics for the last decades because that's been my job. Growth, earning money for big corporates. And somewhere I felt really awful about myself. And I changed myself to become a team coach and trainer in leadership and strategy development. And I'm actually working again with the big corporates because I think we as people can change a lot. But I'm really eager together with business to change the things that I as a human being are worried about the disbalance between well-being and prosperity. And I believe we as human beings can do a lot. And so that is actually why I changed myself, because I am some kind of an expert in uncomfortable situations. And that's what I like to speak about today, about discomfort in change. If you have questions in between, just raise your hand. I'd love to address it in a moment. Before I dive into, I would like to do some kind of an experiment here in this room with you to see how change works for you. So I'm going to ask you, also the other way around. Let's say that tomorrow, in every university, all meetings will be standing meetings. No chairs are allowed in university at all. Let that sink in. Maybe close your eyes, or if you're uncomfortable doing that, look down to the floor. And how would your life be as a student in university when there are no chairs, while you're sitting here on a chair comfortably? So let that sink in. How does that feel? What are your thoughts? Well, open your eyes again. And maybe swap with your neighbor. What kind of feelings or thoughts did you have about that stupid change? Exchange something with your neighbor, please. I'm sorry to stop you. It's an absurd change, but can I hear just some thoughts and feelings that were actually exchanged? You know, I got lots of boards when they're having fights together, and every now and then I make them stand up, because then we're done in 10 minutes. Because if we just sit all day, very comfortably sitting, so sometimes it's actually quite nice to create a bit of discomfort in the situation. So there are in change, there are different emotions. And very practical ones, ethical ones maybe. And the fact is, change, it's not a moral sort of rational process. It's something that actually has so many emotions different from every person. Some people actually, they grasp new ways of thinking or working just within an hour, and other people are like defending the old way for years. You probably recognize that. Maybe even with boiling an egg, when somebody likes to have their egg boiled for 6 minutes and then it's half hard, half soft. No, I'd like to have a 5-minute boiled eggs. No, 6 is better. I mean, try 5 minutes every now and then. It might actually be better than your own 6-minute eggs. So I hope we can all relate that there are different emotions in change. And I'm going to take you along with 3 examples in change in my life, in business experience. One of those changes was, I wanted, a very personal one actually, I wanted to change something. One was I had to change something, and the other one is that I was not allowed to change, but I really wanted. So I'm going to take you along with a very personal one first. In my family, we had a tradition that piercing your ears, it was not done. I was considered trashy if I would pierce my ears. And I don't know how this tradition or value ever came into our life, but as a girl you can imagine that you'd like to be beautiful and try to create some kind of an own identity, and I was jealous at my girlfriends actually wearing earrings. And but I obeyed the situation, the tradition in my family life that, okay, I'm not allowed to pierce my ears. And the funny thing is that when I turned 40, I started thinking, actually, I really like to have earrings myself. So who am I obeying? Still my mom or whatever? What is it? So I was going to I had conversations about it with friends, people around me, and they were all like, are you still obeying your parents? How old are you? And I was sharing my discomfort that I really felt some kind of obliged to keep the family tradition. And at the same time, you know what, I became a rebellion and I pierced my ears when I was 40 years old. And you know what happened? I went home, I nearly shit my pants because I really was afraid of the opinion and the fight I was going to have. And at the same time, you know, the response of my mom was actually, it really looks good on you. And you know what? I'm actually quite jealous that you did. I never dared to do it myself. I really would like to have earrings myself as well. And I was really shocked. I was like, okay, I've been obeying her in this principle for 40 years. So 10 years ago, when she turned 70, I gave her piercing and earrings. And now all my nieces have even double or triple piercings in all their ears. And the fact that I opened up about my own discomfort and was finding my own moral inner compass. Oh, what is the value of the family? Is it my value still? Is it, how can I actually change myself, a small example as it is? And I also opened up to my girlfriends about it. And you know what? Actually, I found out that lots of my girlfriends had the same tradition in their life, in their family. And also got their ears pierced. So I sort of started a new hype that people at older age actually started to have earrings. So another actually change moment in my life, I'm ashamed actually to admit that I worked for an oil company. I even worked for 2 oil companies. I was responsible for all the consumer products with these companies. And, well, like you heard in the previous speaker, growth is always the main subject of the year. We were having budget issues at this oil company. And a bottle of water was actually the most sold product within this oil company in the stores along the highway. And the oil company thought that because they had a monopoly position, there's nobody else, there was no competitors. So, you know what, we're going to increase the prices to, for me, a ridiculous price at that moment. And I started to fight actually my colleagues because I felt I was responsible about consumer products. If it would be, I think it was those days, 275 or something, and I said 275 for water. I mean, it's a weird situation that I thought, well, maybe there are issues in the how people look at oil companies. Maybe we should have refillable, reusable bottles, and that people can actually get water for free at our company. Maybe that's actually even commercially better, because you can probably ask €5 for a reusable bottle, and then people will maybe even come to your company to fuel up because they know you have free water. But I got into this fight about the content, about the why, the price, and what might be the impact, and then I discussed price elasticity, and so what are we losing, and I could not win this argument because we needed money quick, and this was a very actually quick win for the oil company to increase those prices. And there were actually more situations where I thought, what is the goal of this department within this oil company? I felt more and more discomfort in trying to get more money with ridiculous sweet or salty or greasy products from the consumers. And I felt more and more uncomfortable and having these conversations with my colleagues. And they were actually trying to, okay, the Eva is somewhere on a green mission, and what are you doing here within the oil company? And I thought, well, maybe I can change something within the company. And I felt really, really alone there, because I was the only one trying to ask questions about the why and what the impact would have been if we did things differently. So because I had to do things I did not like, I left working for an oil company. So there were many, many emotions in me. I wanted to change maybe things there, but I had to do things I did not like to do. And as a person, that was really, really a discomfortable situation for myself. And later on, I was at another main leading retailer responsible for the food products. One day, this woman came to my desk. This is me sitting on my desk, trying to earn lots of money for the company. And this woman came and she made an appointment with me. And she said, would you please give me some time? I would like to share my dream with you. I said, yeah, sure. If somebody asks you that, you're not going to say no. Even I did not have a clue what it was going to be about. And she told me her dream that she said, well, the food in the world is so much responsible for how the environment is developing, how products are being produced. And she said, well, what if we create together with retailers and manufacturers a system that is good actually for the environment, for the planet, for the people, for the animals. And she said, I have this dream and I'd like to work on this dream together with retail companies. And she said, I would like to ask you to give me your data. So what are the ingredients of your products and what, how many of those do you sell? And she said, because I want to create a dashboard, and because I would like to know what you as a retail company say that you're doing on the impact on the environment. And I want to check actually retailers, what they are really doing, so I can create some kind of competition between the retailers to maybe fight each other to wanting to become better than the other. And I thought, well, that might actually work. So I went to the board, and we were private equity owned then, and they said, oh, no, we're not going to share data with those kind of companies. It was an NGO. It's called Question Mark. And I had to say, after lots of fights internally, that I was not able to help her. A year later, when I left this company, I went to her. And I asked her, I was not allowed to help you then, but as a human being, as a person, I want to help you. How can I help you create your dream? Because I believe in your dream as well. So then I actually started to train her and her colleagues dealing with me in a business situation. And that was really helpful, because I could teach her how the old me worked and how my priorities and ways of working were, and how she could address her money and her energy and her research. And I created a board of advisors for her, for the NGO Question Mark. And we are still very valuable to them, that they have an insight in a field of work where they do target, but they don't have the in-depth knowledge of the organization. So here, in this change example, I was not allowed to create a change, but when I stepped out, and just as me, it's like not the footprint, but the handprint. What's the handprint you have? I don't know whose example it was. I really believe in it, because I think as a persons, we are able to create positive change ourselves in many, many different ways. So a question for you. Change is a difficult topic. It often fails. I'm trying to lose weight for years. Trying again and again and again. It often fails. Getting better actually by now. But what might be, let me hear some topics, reasons why change does not succeed very easily. I think it's a combination of there's huge money being made in the change consultancy. Oh, we need to change. Well, hire a very expensive firm, and then tell you what to do, and they do it top down in the organization, and this is the way we're going to change. And I can tell you one thing, I've experienced it multiple times. If you do it the top down way, people will resist. They will refuse to change, and you have to fight people a lot actually, because even if it is a good change. For me, as I experienced in business life, when there was no good goal or a clear vision that was shared actually by a lot of people in the company, then there was no success. So you really, really need to have a shared common goal or vision. And that's why the lady who came to my desk with this, can I share my dream with you, to really, really start discussions with your own dream, that really, really helps, because then you know where we're going. I also was a teacher the last 5 years, and all my students, when they were graduate and choose their topic, I always said, start with your dream, because then we know actually what it is you're trying to develop, to research. What is your dream? Another very important reason is why change often fails, because of no or poor leadership. You all recognize walk the talk, but it's also talk the walk. It's at one of those big retail companies I've worked, the CEO, he really wanted to be a more sustainable retailer. So I asked him, why are you willing actually to get rid of your car? Because they had a really big oil slurping car. And he said, no, I'm not. So I said, well, if you as a CEO really want to be responsible for this sustainability change, then you cannot be in this car anymore. Can't you see? I mean, you have to walk the talk, or drive the talk, in this case. And he was not willing to do so. So every topic he addressed in that organization about sustainability, people were like, when is he really sincere in his effort, or is it just greenwashing? Another reason why I experience it fails actually, because there's not enough interest or attention for the human side in change. Maybe you all recognize this, it's called the X-curve. It's created by Dirk Loorbach from the University of Rotterdam. When something needs to stop or end or change, there's lots of emotions about it. It's sort of a grief curve actually, that you have to get used to something new, but you don't want to give up your own patterns and the fact that you were not allowed to have earrings. My mom fought it for a long time. But you also have the new way of working, and there somewhere along the line in marketing it's about the innovators and the end the late majority. So when are actually people starting to do new things? So there is somewhere a crossroad between old and new, And if we want to have a change, if we don't consider that there are lots of emotions within peoples during that change, and if you just, it's like this, tomorrow there's no chairs anymore, it won't work. So you have to consider the fact that it's also grief. So change is very discomfortable, and it's grief. It's saying goodbye to all patterns and all traditions. I was addicted to Coca-Cola Light. At the end of the day, at 5, my body was craving for Coca-Cola Light. Maybe because of the commercial, you're too young probably, because we had the Coca-Cola Light Break commercial when I was young. And not taking my Coca-Cola Light at the end of the day anymore, it really was hard. And at the same time, I was really trying to, okay, so what is the Coca-Cola Light Break for me? It was a cold drink. It was actually the sound of the can. That gave me some kind of a caffeine bubble. So now I actually discovered that just sparkling water has the same impact as long as it's cold. So I really digged in what is actually the Coca-Cola Light Break for me. So there are lots of emotions in change. If I look at change, for me change happens on 4 levels. It's individual, and we have to somewhere try to get the collective to change things. And it's an inner process, and it's an outer process. And maybe you've heard of the analogy of the iceberg. That's from Edward Hall. That everything which you see in life, behavior, communication, structures, how things are organized, are the things you can see above the waterline. But what is below the waterline are the feelings, the ambitions, the fears of people. And we don't tend to express those below the surface feelings and desires a lot. Although, when I look at change, I experience for myself, but also in business, when you start on the inner part, so with your dream or your values, to share whatever your value or dream is, and you bring the inner to the outer in your behavior, and maybe the things you do as a proof that you are longing for a dream or have a purpose, that people can actually see, well, she's pierced her ears. Stupid example, but even more sustainable behaviors. If somebody has a feeling that is feeling the need to be more sustainable, but is not eating and behaving in a more sustainable way, there's a difference then between what you see and what a person is actually longing for. So for me, change starts from within, and how can I bring out what my ambition, my ambition, my dream is. And when I shared it, like this woman shared with me her dream about the sustainable food system, she brought actually that to the collective. She created a shared purpose and a shared goal with this NGO, but also with it as a board of advisors. And because of her example, how she was able to actually get attention from retail companies and create a dashboard, and it's a real success. And she's going to all the countries in Europe at the moment, and even our government in the Netherlands took her way of looking at sustainable change within the food sector to make policy. So it all started for her with this dream. And she brought it to the collective, where now, as if the example for the cups, the paper cups, are being more set into rules in the systems and the policies from the government. So change, it all starts within. And maybe to explain this picture, one of the dimensions in the inner development goals is about your inner compass. For me, that was a very vague word, the inner compass. What is your inner compass? I can feel my inner compass. I don't know how it is with you. Maybe exchange that with your neighbor. Can you feel what is your inner compass? And where do you feel that in your body? Can you exchange that with your... Is there a common part in the body where we feel the inner compass? I saw some people actually pointing to their stomach. I don't know. And how do you feel?
That's a feeling, not a rational thing.
No. Yeah. Does somebody have some kind of a, that's my inner compass, I feel it. I have it. It's somewhere a connection between my stomach and my brain, and it's like electricity. Then I'm... So I listen actually to that there's something in my body signaling to me, yeah. And it can also be the other way around, not only to disagree, but that you really long for something, that you feel, this is my goal, this is what I want, and lots of people actually point to their stomach area because this is where the feeling is. 20 years ago, I was trained to breathe again because I was only breathing here to get all the sales targets. And when I started to breathe, I was actually, oh gosh, there's a whole lot of feeling here I didn't know about. So it's, but to open up about your inner compass in a situation, that's hard balls. That's difficult. And I use the word discomfort every day when I'm in a situation, when something's happening, and I'm saying, well, this really makes me uncomfortable. Are more people having this uncomfortable feeling? And I always raise my hand while I do that. And when you do that, you invite people also to raise their hand. But you have to speak out, but also put your hand in the head. Are more people feeling uncomfortable at Harvard University where there are no foreign students allowed anymore? Are there more people feeling uncomfortable about that situation? Can I ask you here? And if you do this in situations, there are always people who are actually having the same discomfortable feeling. And I do it a lot, and it really helps because then you create, oh, it's not only me, but there's a we here. So to use the word discomfortable, I'm really, really feeling uncomfortable in this situation, gives me the space in situations to give more explanation, to ask questions, to create actually the space to create different perspectives maybe on a topic. And that really, really helps. And if you create a space and are there other perspectives in this topic, then you can co-create and create a shared vision, because we don't know where north is. Maybe north tomorrow is the other way around. We don't know. We have to deal with the uncertainty. So remember to put your hand in the air. It really helps. It's really weird, because then you create a we, as in here. When you speak out about something that is uncomfortable, that you feel needs to be addressed, you are never alone. And I promise you, you are never alone. So what really helped me, a few years ago, I got to know the inner development goals. And as a leadership trainer, I worked with all these skills anyway, but for me it really worked, especially in some corporates, that you have some kind of a frame that people might think that, oh, this is something I can work on, and then I develop myself. But I agree with all the critics that it's not the goal itself to have developed all these topics. But even to put one of these skills as a topic in a situation, how do we actually co-create together? Even if it's only a question, and to define together how we're going to deal with this situation. It gives you lots of new perspectives, and actually it creates the space again to not just jump into there's a problem and let's have a solution within 5 minutes. No, do we really understand what is the problem? I really like to work with design thinking, maybe you too, to really to empathize with the question and the surroundings around the question, to really understand what's the question behind the question before we even start to come up with solutions immediately. So for me, the inner development, it works to help to create a common shared change desire. And for me, inner development on itself, it really was life-saving, because I was really trained in the growth mindset, just earning money. When I worked for Disney, we didn't discuss the staff. Now, how many bodies do we have on the payroll? About uncomfortable situations. How many bodies do we have on the payroll? It was not the person itself, it was a body. For me, it was life-changing to develop myself. And I really, really wished that I'd done it earlier in my life. I'm taking along my father, who is 85 at the moment, in the journey I've had the last 20 years. And he's really, really grateful that I'm taking him along. And he regrets also that he said, well, by now finally, I understand what my impact has been in business all my life. I also wish I was taught earlier in life about how we can use ourselves as an instrument of change, because I see myself and leaders as an instrument. So are you aware of what it is you have as skills as a leader to be able to create a change? So I'm really fond of the framework. I was last year in the ambassadors program for the IDG on the island of Eskeret. It's in Sweden, in the middle of nowhere, where actually the scientists who came together to think, and there's some really, really good Peter Senge and Amy Edmondson, some really, really great leaders from MIT and Harvard and other universities, and they came together to say, okay, if we'd like to develop the Sustainable Development Goals in 2030, what does it need from a person? How can we help persons to be able to together, because it's not you only, it's together, we can create a change. And they sought for the best change skills that were actually scientifically proven to be useful skills to create change. So let me ask you, what can you shift in life, maybe in your career as a student, or maybe already working? So if you look at this framework, and maybe for the last thing to share with your neighbor, if you'd like to accomplish impact or change somewhere, what might help you from one of these 23 skills? I'm sorry to stop your very, very valid and good conversations, but maybe this is something to actually continue during lunch. Because I would like to wrap up and to say thank you for your attention, and maybe there are some questions or remarks or some uncomfortable feelings. Yeah. Oh, everybody's a leader in my view. Yeah. I tend to work in leadership development, and some companies say the board is the leadership, but I also work with trainees and students, and so when it's For me, it's about leadership development. It's about seeing yourself as an instrument to actually create or develop things, or whatever your goal is. To see yourself as an instrument and to develop you as an instrument. So for me, it's not leadership only being the bosses. So it's personal leadership skills, but also cooperation, how to cooperate with people and how to communicate and how to deal with uncomfortable situations. People tend to define personal leadership something different than leadership. For me, it's you cannot lead someone else if you can also lead yourself first. For me, that's a very important value to me to develop. Yeah.
Okay, this is maybe a bit of a problem kind of, but where would you say
I think all humans are the same. We all go to the toilet. We all have fears, bad days, good days. And I think the difference, what I see, I just finished up a leadership program with a huge NGO in the Netherlands, and what I define as a difference is that their inner compass is with them for such a long time. What they know, what they really, really would like to sacrifice in life to be able to create their dream for the world. And it's not about themselves. And in the corporates, I see more people busy with ourselves than with others. But in the end, all people are the same. Yeah. And I see lots of people like the moral ambition from Rutger Bregman, a Dutch writer, trying to convince consultants and people to do meaningful jobs instead of working for the big four or the ones who only make money. So if you have all the brains and the energy, please consider to do good instead of only for yourself. I really emphasize that, yeah. Well, last 2 years I was a teacher for a retail company where people were still studying, and they had to, in the University of Applied Sciences, they had to, with design thinking, come up with a new product or a solution for the company. With them, I started with ethics and the moral compass to really dive in what is important for you as a person. And I did not expect, before I started, that they would all actually choose sustainable topics and new products. Because for the first time in their life, I made them think about what was important for them in life, actually. Combined it with ethics, actually. That really helps. So what's good and bad? I mean, it's a difficult conversation anyway. So I experience also in my leadership programs, if I'm able to integrate the context, the world, the CSRD, the new regulation from Europe, European government to be able to create sustainable change, that people think that, okay, this is something that I can combine also within my work. And we're not used to do that in corporates because it's just me, my department and the goal. But if you add the context, so who are your stakeholders? And if I also put a chair in the room, this is the future. Even with boards. First did it with clients. Okay, let's add the client. How's the discussion if we have the client with us here? But it was not enough. So now I put the future as well on a chair. And I put just a sign. And I cannot really set the future in the room, but I can ask, how will this be for the future? And it totally changes in the perspective and the discussions. So add the context, add the future, add all stakeholders, not only the shareholders. I think everyone is entitled to start a discussion. So even you as a student to go up to the board and say, can you please explain how is this value actually been executed, because I don't see it? Can you help me, because maybe it's me, I'm feeling uncomfortable, I don't see it. Can you help me? And that really might have an impact on that person. And try to create a space to be able to create a shared dream. I think we're all entitled to point out something, discuss something. There's no one answer that fits all, but I think if your courage, feeling the courage and communicate and ask good open questions without labeling, without defending that, making him defend his, oh, but we did this, we did that. To really be open-minded and to have an open conversation. You can. Good luck. Have fun. Thank you all. Organization, what is the next step?